I read lots of different things. Technology, religious, romantic, anything really. Just I like a good general knowledge of everything. So I was on YouTube the other day, and I was just watching some videos in conjunction with mine. I put some religious ones on, and I saw this thing, Anunnaki, and Sumerians, and I read more, and it turns out that the Hebrew Bible, which the Catholic Christian Bible was based on the Sumerian Bible, or the Sumerian tablets found in Iraq, where all the earth batteries and everything were found as well, from the very first civilization, the Sumerians, the very first documented civilization, shall we say. So in reality, they speak of God and gods and all this lot, and it's more or less the Hebrew Bible, the Christian and Catholic Bible, the Old Testament, all in, it's all there, but it's in Sumerian. It's not in English or Hebrew or Italian. It's in Sumerian, their language. So if we agree that God created the world in 6 days, and it was 5,000 years ago or whatever it was, and the Sumerians were the race, that's Eden, that's the Garden of Eden's Iraq, which is basically what the Sumerian tablets say, and the Hebrew Bible says, and the Old Testament says. We all agree that that is the case. I think we'll all agree that's the case. Well, if that is the case, then I'm afraid Italian-speaking Christians and Italian-speaking Catholics are going to go straight to hell. And I'll explain it like this, because not only Italian ones are, anybody that doesn't speak the language Sumeria, whatever it's called, will go to hell because you're disrespecting God and not speaking his language. Obviously, if that's the first civilization and God set it up, God gave you his language quite clearly. You know what I mean? I'm afraid they created the world and Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and there you go, and Adam named all the animals and bloody. That's all the Sumerian tablets as well. So if that in fact was the first civilization, and in fact the world was made by God, or seeded by God, then everybody that doesn't speak Sumerian and doesn't worship in Sumerian, so you can speak whatever language you want, but when you're praying to God, if you're praying in English, that's selfish, which makes you a witch. You're too selfish to learn his language, which means he has to understand your language. He gave you a language which was good enough to communicate and create scriptures and all sorts of stuff, but that wasn't good enough for you. Now heed this, you either speak his language and one language, otherwise you're all going to hell unless you're speaking his language. So I'm afraid, Northern America, Canada, all of South American people, all the African people, there's maybe 3,000 people on the planet which speak and pray in Sumerian. They're the only people that will be blessed with a place in heaven. Let's face it, heaven isn't a very big place. It can't fit 9 billion people in per year. Respect your God. If you do truly want to respect God, one almighty God, if you speak his language first, and then you worship him in his language, I don't think you're quite grasping it yet. God made the first civilization, if that's what you believe, and you don't speak the language he gave you, you are disrespecting it. Now, Hebrew is nowhere near Sumerian, nowhere near it, because it's changed from Sumerian. Even if it's got a couple of words which are the same, I'm afraid it's not the same. So, you are disrespecting him. Again, Italian, you're disrespecting him. Latin, you're disrespecting him. You're pretty much done for. You're in hell. You're in hell created by your leaders. You have no choice whatsoever because your leaders have not given you a choice. Do you understand?